What happens to your ability to trust when the person who was supposed to teach you about love was emotionally somewhere else? I'm Judi Bommarito, and this is healing card number 16, Building Trust. But I need to start with something most people don't realize. Your capacity for trust was formed before you could even speak, by someone who may not have been capable of consistent emotional presence. When your primary caregiver is emotionally unavailable, whether through depression, mental illness, addiction, trauma, or just their own unhealed wounds, you don't just miss out on feeling loved. You miss out on learning what trustworthy love looks like. You learn that people can say they love you and still be absent when you need them. You learn that emotional safety isn't something you can count on. You learn to read micro-expressions and mood shifts like your survival depends on it, because it does. And then you spend your adult life wondering why relationships feel so complicated, why you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, why love feels more like a threat than a comfort. Growing up with emotional unavailability is like growing up in a desert where you're always scanning the horizon for water. You become an expert at reading the landscape. Is today a day when connection might be possible? Or should I make myself smaller, quieter, more convenient? I learned to be grateful for crumbs of attention. A moment of genuine eye contact felt like winning the lottery. When my mother was emotionally present, I would memorize it, how her voice sounded, how her face looked, how it felt to actually be seen. But I never knew when it would happen again. But here's the devastating part. I also learned not to trust those moments, because emotional unavailability isn't consistent in its absence. It's unpredictable. Sometimes the person shows up fully and your heart opens up like a flower towards sunlight. Then they disappear again, and you're left wondering if you imagined the connection, if you're asking for too much, if love is supposed to feel this uncertain. This teaches you that trust is dangerous, that opening your heart fully means setting yourself up for disappointment, that the people who claim to love you most are often the ones most likely to let you down. I carried this training into every adult relationship. I became a connoisseur of emotional unavailability. I could spot it from across the room and somehow felt more comfortable with people who kept me guessing than with people who showed up consistently. Healthy, available love felt boring, suspicious, too good to be true. When someone was emotionally present and reliable, I would wait for them to reveal their real self, the one who would eventually become distracted, overwhelmed, or just plain absent. I had 3 unconscious relationship rules that I didn't even know I was following. Rule number 1, don't expect too much emotional presence and you won't be disappointed. Rule number 2, earn love by being low maintenance and high giving. Rule number 3, if someone is consistently available, there must be something wrong with them. These rules kept me safe from the specific pain of childhood, but they also kept me safe from the possibility of genuine intimacy. I was so busy protecting myself from emotional abandonment that I was emotionally abandoning myself. Under this full moon energy, I had to face something that terrified me. What if the love I'd been protecting myself from actually existed? What if some people could really show up emotionally, consistently, without me having to earn it or manage it? The full moon illuminates what's been hiding, and what I'd been hiding from was hope. Hope that I could be loved without performing. Hope that someone could see my needs without me having to minimize them. Hope that emotional safety wasn't just something other people got to experience. But hope, when you've been disappointed repeatedly, feels like setting yourself up for devastation. It's easier to stay cynical, to expect nothing, to keep everyone at the distance where they can't really hurt you. The full moon asked me to choose. Stay protected and stay disconnected, or risk being hurt again for the possibility of being truly met. I chose to risk it, but this time I chose with intention, with boundaries, with the wisdom I've gained from years of learning what real emotional availability looks like. I want to share with you what I learned about testing for emotional availability before giving your full trust. Because when you've been trained to accept crumbs, you need to recalibrate what a full meal actually looks like. I call it the simple emotional availability check. You're looking for 3 basic things. Can they handle their own emotions without making them your responsibility? When they're stressed or upset, do they deal with it maturely, or do they expect you to fix their feelings? Can they handle your emotions without trying to fix or dismiss them? When you share something real, do they listen and stay present, or do they immediately try to solve it or change the subject? Can they show up consistently, especially when it's not easy or convenient? Are they there when you need support, or only when you're fun to be around? That's it. 3 simple observations. Most people struggle with at least one of these. And that's important information. Not everyone is capable of the emotional availability that you need. But some people are, and when you find them, they're worth the risk. Here's what I invite you to try. It's simple, but not easy. For the next month, pay attention to how people make you feel after you spend time with them. Not during. We can all perform for short periods, but after, when you're alone, processing the interaction. Do you feel energized or drained? Seen or invisible? Safe or on edge? Like you were yourself, or like you were managing an impression? Start noticing patterns. The people who consistently leave you feeling good about yourself, about life, about the possibility of connection, those are your trust candidates. The ones who leave you feeling anxious, depleted, or somehow diminished, those are the ones to be careful with. Your nervous system knows things your mind hasn't figured out yet. Your body keeps the score of every interaction. Start trusting those signals again. And here's the crucial part. When you find someone who passes these tests consistently, practice giving them incrementally more trust. Share something slightly more vulnerable. Ask for slightly more support. See how they handle the increased intimacy. Trust isn't a switch you flip. It's a muscle you strengthen gradually with people who prove they can handle the weight of what you're offering. Every time you choose emotional availability over emotional intensity, every time you trust someone who has earned it rather than someone who just feels familiar, you're not just healing yourself, you're healing the family pattern. You're proving that it's possible to love and be loved without emotional starvation. You're showing that consistency isn't boring. It's the foundation that allows intimacy to flourish. You're demonstrating that people can show up for each other emotionally, reliably, without losing themselves in the process. The child in me who learned to walk on eggshells around someone's emotional unavailability needed to know that not all love would require that kind of vigilance. That I could relax into being loved. That if my emotional needs weren't too much, inconvenient, or threatening to healthy people. Learning to trust emotionally available people isn't about becoming naive or dropping all your boundaries. It's about upgrading your standards. It's about refusing to accept emotional scraps when you could have a full relationship. Next week, we're exploring emotional awareness Because as you learn to trust others, you also need to trust your own emotional guidance system and honor what it's telling you about the people in your life. What's one way you can practice recognizing how to build trust this week? Share it below. Your healing gives others permission to expect more from their relationships too. The love that shows up consistently is the only love worth trusting, and you deserve nothing less. Take good care.